Fitting bead locks is not forgetting to put the valve in, man, because I'll tell you what, if you put that whole bead in and then you realise you haven't put the valve on, it makes you terribly sad inside. So one thing that's important, being that these are really expensive, is never go and dry. Sometimes even just get the Never-Cease brush and run it around there, and it'll stop it from galling and picking up on the thread because they're under a shit ton of load. What we'll do is we'll get the tyre fitted up and then we'll make a good old lube brew. So the most important thing with bead locks is because you're trying to stretch this bead out on here, and especially if it's serrated, is you need heaps of lube on the back of the bead, which you normally don't really worry about. So obviously with like tyres, this is generally the light spot and that's the heavy spot, so you're going to line that up with the valve. And normally when you fit a tyre, you're only going to lube these outer beads. However, on a bead lock, you want to lube the living shit out of the inside of this bead so it can slide on the serrated surface, because if you don't, you're going to jam the bead actually between the actual bead lock and then you'll end up stripping bolts. So unlike on a normal tyre, we're going to take that section out now, get that light bit lined up, and as you can see here, you want to make sure that's not over to one side because we're trying to stretch this bead here out and around. So we'll just get a lip. So what we're going to do is we're going to do these up in a crisscross pattern, torque them lightly, and then the final torque setting will be about 23 Newton meters. So you can see that we're trying to maintain that even gap. We don't want to go sandwich it down on one side because it'll cause a lot of damage. So what I generally do is I get them all started and then I actually put a bit of air in it to expand the tyre so I can make sure it's fully away from getting damaged, kind of thing. So what I normally do at about this point, you can see it's probably got a 5mm gap the whole way around. Make sure your valve's out. You haven't forgot to put that in because it'd ruin your life and you'll be starting again. And we're going to actually put some air pressure in this. Obviously, if you've only got the bolts 2 threads in and you go put 30 pound in it, you're going to probably lose your front teeth. So we're going to put 20 pound in it there, and we're going to go to the bolts that are slightly high and try do rough opposite so it pulls it down. I've mentioned it sounds rough, but we generally have the rattle gun either on low torque or just if you've got a real good feel for it, you can kind of do it from experience. But if you don't, you'll end up doing damage to something. I'm just putting a little bit more air in just to get it out as far as it can be now, and keeping an eye on that air gap, make sure there's no bolts too high. Sometimes when it starts to contact, we'll actually go round and then get the torque wrench out for the final torque down kind of thing. So these are all fairly even, but if you're inexperienced with torque wrenches and power tools and stuff like that, I recommend crisscrossing all the bolts kind of thing so you can get it to pull down evenly. What I'll do now is I'll set my pressure. I'm going to run these when we're racing around 18 pound roughly. So yeah, that's kind of how we go about fitting up bead locks. Tell us your opinion anyway. As you can see, you can do it quite speedily if you do it properly. Plenty of lube, torquing it down evenly. Make sure you don't pinch that bead and use a bit of air to pull it up on the bead before you get it right down flush.